There is a pattern within the vastness of the universe that only a few are able to see. A pattern that connects certain special souls through a shared experience that at first glance seems cruel and unfair. If you're watching this video right now, something within you recognizes this call. Something inside you knows you're not here by accident. Imagine a rare and precious seed with the potential to become a majestic tree, capable of purifying the air around it and nurturing countless forms of life. Now imagine this same seed being deliberately planted not in fertile, rich soil, but in dry, contaminated ground that appears hostile to life. It sounds like a terrible mistake, doesn't it? A sentence to failure. But what if I told you it wasn't a mistake? What if this seemingly cruel placement was, in fact, precisely calculated? What if these special seeds, these chosen souls, were the only ones capable not just of surviving in this toxic environment, but of eventually transforming it completely? Have you felt since childhood that something about you was different, a sensitivity that others didn't seem to share? A sharper perception of emotions, injustices, and contradictions that the adults around you pretended not to see. Maybe you were called too dramatic, too sensitive, too intense, as if your deep ability to feel was a flaw, rather than an extraordinary gift. What you experienced within your family was not karmic punishment or some cruel twist of fate. It was a designation, a mission, a calling that only souls with a certain vibrational frequency could accept. Today, I'm going to reveal a truth that few have the courage to speak, a truth that will explain why you, with all your light and potential, were born into an environment seemingly designed to dim your shine. A truth that will transform the way you see your past and illuminate your future like never before. This isn't a surface-level explanation about growing through adversity or finding strength in hardship. It's a profound revelation about the true nature of the chosen ones, those appointed for one of the most challenging and important missions in this entire plane of existence. Before I reveal this truth that few dare to share, tap the like button right now. It helps this message reach other chosen souls like you, because what I'm about to share isn't just for you. It's for everyone who, like you, feels they carry a light that doesn't seem to belong in the environment they were placed in. Get ready to see your personal story in a new light, not as a victim of unfortunate circumstances, but as the protagonist of a heroic journey, carefully orchestrated for a purpose far greater than you ever imagined. There's a fascinating paradox that few truly understand. Why do the brightest, most sensitive and intuitive souls so often come from toxic families? Why do those with the purest hearts and sharpest minds find themselves in environments seemingly determined to crush exactly those qualities? This apparent contradiction is no cosmic mistake. It's intentional design. In toxic families, where love is conditional, communication is distorted, and authenticity is punished, are born those with the greatest capacity to bring healing. Like a rose breaking through concrete, the chosen ones possess extraordinary spiritual resilience. Think about the tension created by this contrast. On one side, your essential nature, compassionate, truthful, intuitive. On the other, a toxic family environment demanding conformity, denial, and emotional suppression. This constant tension, though painful, forged within you unique abilities, a keen awareness of human dynamics, deep empathy born of suffering, and sharp intuition to detect inconsistencies. That constant discomfort you felt in your family, the sense of being a stranger in your own home, wasn't your imagination. It was your soul recognizing that you were operating on a different frequency. In toxic families, this difference often becomes a target. Why are you so sensitive? Why do you question everything? Why can't you just accept things the way they are? Human history is filled with examples of transformers who emerged from difficult beginnings. Gandhi grew up under colonial oppression before becoming the voice of peaceful resistance. Maya Angelou endured deep trauma before becoming a poetic voice of healing. Nelson Mandela transformed the pain of imprisonment into a vision of national reconciliation. From toxic families, oppressive environments, and brutal circumstances came those with the vision to change them. What do these transformers have in common with you? The ability to keep your essence intact, even when everything around you tried to corrupt or deny it. In your toxic family, you may have been labeled as rebellious, difficult, or overly emotional, when, in truth, you were simply refusing to take part in dysfunctional dynamics your spirit instinctively recognized as false. This paradox, being a clear soul born into a dark environment, created a strength within you that people raised in healthy settings rarely develop. The constant need to discern truth from manipulation, genuine love from emotional control, sharpened your perceptions. Experiencing your reality being denied only deepened your connection to your inner truth. The chosen ones in toxic families are like diamonds, formed under extreme pressure, emerging with a clarity and strength that could only be developed through such an intense process. What seemed like your greatest disadvantage, being born into a toxic family, was in fact the catalyst for your spiritual awakening and greater purpose. Behind the apparent cosmic cruelty of being born into a toxic family lies a hidden mission, a greater purpose that transcends individual suffering. The chosen ones are not victims of random fate. They are strategically placed agents meant to catalyze transformation within systems rooted in dysfunction. When a chosen soul is born into a toxic family, it's not a mistake by the universe, but a deliberate placement. Just like we send our best doctors to epidemic zones and our most skilled engineers to collapsing structures, the souls with the highest healing capacity are sent exactly where healing is most needed. Toxic families are closed systems that repeat the same destructive patterns generation after generation. Without intervention, these cycles can continue endlessly. Abuse breeding more abuse, shame breeding more shame, silence breeding more silence. The only way to break these cycles is through an internal catalyst. Someone who, though born into the system, carries a different frequency. That's where you come in. As a chosen one, you are the bearer of light in a dark system. Your refusal to fully participate in collective denial, your persistent search for authenticity, your inability to ignore the contradictions everyone pretends not to see, these are not character flaws, but essential aspects of your mission. Think about the traits that always seemed out of place in your toxic family. Maybe your emotional sensitivity in a family that prized stoicism, your creativity in an environment that demanded conformity, your intuition in a system built on denial, your empathy in a context of emotional coldness. These apparent mismatches are actually the very tools you brought with you for your mission. Toxic families fear change because change threatens the dysfunctional balance that keeps the system operating. That's why your authenticity felt so threatening. Every time you spoke the truth, questioned an inconsistency, or expressed a genuine emotion, you were introducing a disruptive frequency into the family's energetic field. Many chosen ones spend years asking, "Why me? Why was I born into this specific family?" The answer is both simple and profound, because you had the spiritual strength not only to survive in that environment, but eventually to transform it, if not by directly changing the other members, which may or may not happen, then by breaking the generational cycle through your own healing. Your mission as a chosen one doesn't end with your family of origin. The patterns you learn to identify and transcend within your family are microcosms of larger dynamics present in society at large. The ability to recognize manipulation, set healthy boundaries, and hold on to your truth in the face of collective denial are exactly the skills our world desperately needs right now. The very traits that made your life difficult in a toxic family, your sensitivity, intuition, longing for authenticity, and desire for genuine connection are precisely the gifts you came here to offer a world starving for healing. You weren't sent just to transform your family system, but to, through that experience, develop the tools needed to contribute to a much greater transformation. There are distinct markers that reveal the chosen ones, those destined to break generational patterns and bring light to challenging environments. These are not coincidences, but signs of a higher purpose that few can truly understand. The first sign is an extraordinarily sharp perception from childhood. While others accepted surface-level explanations, you always sensed something deeper happening beneath the surface. You could detect the true intentions behind kind words, notice the contradictions between what was said and what was done. This perception, often labeled as paranoia or overreaction, was in fact your intuition operating on a higher level. Your childhood was marked by experiences that felt like unfair punishments, but were, in truth, a rigorous form of training. The constant criticism, the lack of recognition, the impossible expectations, all of it forged within you an inner strength that people raised in nurturing environments rarely develop. What seemed like cruelty was actually preparing you for a mission that would demand extraordinary resilience. Deep empathy is another defining trait of the chosen ones. You feel other people's pain as if it were your own. You cry over movies that no one else finds emotional. You feel uneasy in places where everything appears to be fine. This ability, often dismissed as hypersensitivity or weakness, is actually a highly advanced tool of energetic perception that few people possess. One of the most telling signs is the persistent feeling of not belonging. Since childhood, you've felt like a stranger in your own home. There were family conversations where everyone seemed to understand some secret code that you simply didn't get. Rituals and dynamics that others accepted without question always felt strange or hollow to you. This feeling isn't alienation. It's your intuitive recognition of your true nature. The chosen often discover unusual gifts that emerge precisely from their hardships. The need to create alternate worlds may have awakened extraordinary artistic talents. The experience of anticipating volatile moods may have sharpened your intuition. Emotional pain may have opened channels of understanding and compassion that most people will never experience. Perhaps the most significant trait is your inability to conform to falsehoods, even when it would be easier to go along. There's something inside you that simply cannot participate in empty rituals, uphold collective lies, or ignore injustices, even when everyone else seems perfectly fine doing so. But here's something few people truly understand. The signs I've mentioned so far are just the surface. There's a much deeper pattern that connects all chosen ones, a pattern that not only explains why you feel different, but reveals the specific purpose for which you were being prepared. This pattern doesn't just explain your past, it will illuminate your future in ways you never imagined. What I'm about to reveal will show you how this so-called trial by fire wasn't a punishment, but a meticulously orchestrated initiation meant to awaken abilities most people never develop in a lifetime. This message needs to reach other chosen ones who still feel lost. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so we can build a community of changemakers. What I'll share next will completely transform your understanding of why you were born where you were and why you went through what you did. The environment of a toxic family isn't just an unfortunate circumstance in your life. It's the carefully chosen setting for your initiation. Like fire that tempers steel, transforming ordinary metal into an extraordinary blade, the intensity of that environment served as a furnace to temper your soul. This refinement process runs deeper than simple life lessons. What you went through was a sophisticated alchemical process, the transformation of lead into gold, of darkness into light. In toxic family environments, where truth is often twisted and authenticity punished, you were forced to develop an extraordinarily precise inner compass. Think about the specific challenges you faced. The constant invalidation of your feelings taught you to trust your own perception, even when everyone around you tried to convince you otherwise. The lack of emotional support developed an inner strength that people who are constantly validated rarely have to tap into. Navigating emotional minefields sharpened your intuition to levels others can't begin to comprehend. Every aspect of your experience in a toxic family, no matter how painful, served to awaken dormant abilities. The hypersensitivity that was mocked is actually a sophisticated tool of perception. The emotional intensity that was labeled dramatic is actually your deep capacity to feel. The questioning that was seen as rebellion is actually your innate commitment to truth. There's a crucial difference between simply being a victim of fate and being chosen to transform. Victims stay stuck in the cycle of pain, unconsciously repeating the same patterns. The chosen one, though they experience the same pain initially, eventually recognizes the higher purpose behind it and transmutes it into wisdom and power. You've probably already noticed that people raised in perfectly healthy environments, while often happier and more well-adjusted, rarely possess the same depth, insight, and capacity for transformation that you've developed. That's no coincidence. Certain spiritual qualities can only be forged under extreme pressure, like diamonds that form deep beneath the surface of the earth. The pain of growing up in a toxic family awakens a search for meaning that more comfortable environments rarely encourage. You were forced to ask fundamental questions about reality, human nature, and the purpose of existence long before your peers. While others accepted life as it was presented to them, you were questioning the very foundations of the reality you were shown. What's most extraordinary about this initiation process is how it prepares you not only for your own liberation, but also to guide others. Those who have never experienced darkness rarely understand the light. You who have navigated the shadows of a toxic family and emerged with your essence intact, possess a wisdom that cannot be learned from books or classrooms. But here's a truth few dare to reveal. Your initiation is not yet complete. What you've experienced so far was only the first phase of a much greater awakening. In the next part of this revelation, I'll share ancient knowledge about the chosen ones, a wisdom that has been safeguarded for millennia and that will explain not only your past and present, but illuminate the extraordinary future you were being prepared for. What you experienced in your family was not a mistake or a punishment. It was the first stage of an awakening that few have the courage to complete. Keep watching to uncover the next level of your journey as one of the chosen. Throughout human history, many traditions have recognized the existence of those we now call the chosen. Souls born into challenging circumstances, especially toxic families, with a special purpose of transformation. This is not a new concept, but an ancient understanding that has been gradually forgotten by modern society. Ancient cultures had names for those who, after surviving intense personal suffering, developed the ability to heal others. The concept of the wounded healer existed across various traditions. The understanding that those who have journeyed through the depths of human pain and emerged whole possess a unique ability to guide others through their own shadows. In Eastern traditions, there is talk of the lotus that grows in the mud. The darker the swamp, the more beautiful the flower that emerges from it. This metaphor perfectly captures the journey of the chosen ones born into toxic families. The intensity of the environment is not an obstacle to their blooming, but the necessary catalyst for their unique awakening. In the mystery traditions, it was taught that certain souls voluntarily chose difficult incarnations not as punishment, but as an opportunity for accelerated development. What would take multiple lifetimes of gradual learning in comfortable circumstances could be achieved in a single lifetime of intense challenge, particularly in the transformational cauldron of a toxic family. What these traditions understood, and what modern society has forgotten, is that suffering, when consciously integrated, can become the most powerful catalyst for spiritual growth. In today's culture, we seek to eliminate all discomfort, medicate every pain, avoid every challenge, and in doing so, we unintentionally block many of the paths to our deepest transformation. The ancients knew that in times of planetary transition and crisis, more chosen ones would be born into challenging circumstances, ready to lead humanity into the next stage of consciousness. They also knew that many of these chosen ones would not initially recognize their mission, identifying only with their suffering instead of their greater purpose. What these traditions offered, and what our society so desperately lacks, were rites of passage and communities that helped the chosen correctly interpret their experiences. Instead of pathologizing their sensitivity or medicating their pain, these traditions honored the initiatory process and guided the initiated into their fullness. In toxic families, the chosen receive no such guidance. On the contrary, their special perceptions are often invalidated, their sensitivity mocked, their search for truth discouraged. And yet, even without external guides, something within you endured, an inner compass that always pointed to your truth, even when everyone around you tried to lead you astray. But here's something you need to understand. You are not alone. On this journey, the same ancient wisdom that recognized the purpose of the chosen also foresaw a time when they would reconnect, forming new communities not based on blood ties, but on spiritual resonance. I'm about to reveal exactly how to identify and deactivate the toxic family codes that were implanted in you. Codes that may be sabotaging your mission without you even realizing it. This information is so powerful that it's rarely shared openly, yet it's essential for you to complete your transformation. Keep watching to uncover what really happens when a chosen one fully awakens to their purpose. When you begin to awaken to your true nature within a toxic family, something curious happens. The resistance intensifies. This is no coincidence. It's the system's way of trying to maintain its balance, even if that balance is dysfunctional. It's like an organism detecting the presence of something unfamiliar, immediately triggering its defense mechanisms. Your emerging authenticity, your pursuit of truth, your need for genuine connection, all of it poses an existential threat to a family system that relies on denial, control, and social masks. The real reason behind this resistance is revealing. Your awakening doesn't just affect you. Like a delicately balanced mobile, when one piece moves, the others are forced to adjust. Your transformation requires the entire system to either change or at least acknowledge the need for change, and that is exactly what the system fears the most. The roles projected onto you since childhood weren't random. In toxic families, every member is assigned a specific role that supports the system's function. You may have been labeled the problem child, the too sensitive one, or the rebel, not because those traits were inherently negative, but because labeling them that way allowed the system to dismiss your legitimate perceptions. When you speak an inconvenient truth, the system responds, "You've always been dramatic." When you set a healthy boundary, you're told, "You've always been selfish." When you challenge contradictory narratives, you're called difficult. These aren't just personal attacks, they're sophisticated mechanisms designed to protect family secrets and preserve the status quo. To deactivate these emotional traps without creating more conflict, you must first recognize them as defense systems, not personal attacks. When you understand that the invalidation you experience is about protecting the system, not about you, something extraordinary happens. You stop absorbing the guilt that was never yours to carry. The paradox of the chosen ones in toxic families is that their awakening is both feared and necessary. On a deeper level, the system knows that your transformation brings the possibility of healing for everyone, but that healing first requires acknowledging the dysfunction, and many are not ready to do that. Observing how others react to your change gives you a precise map of the system's hidden patterns. When you express a need and receive a disproportionate reaction, you've found a sensitive spot. When you set a boundary and get accused of betrayal, you've touched a silent agreement that wasn't meant to be questioned. These reactions are not signs of failure, they're valuable indicators of the family codes that need to be transformed. The key to breaking these codes isn't through direct confrontation, which often strengthens defenses, nor through submission, which reinforces the system. It lies in conscious presence, the ability to stay rooted in your truth without needing to convince anyone else of it. It's the art of observing the system at work without being pulled into its dynamics. Freedom comes when you realize you no longer have to play the role that was assigned to you. The system will keep trying to trigger your old responses, guilt, fear, the need for approval, but you now have the power to choose differently. Some families eventually transform when a chosen one awakens. Others resist until the very end. Wisdom lies in understanding that your healing does not depend on their ability to change. You could be the first in generations to break a cycle of dysfunction that has repeated for centuries, and this quiet act of courage sends waves far beyond what you can see right now. And as you move forward on this journey, you'll start to realize that everything you learned from decoding your toxic family has prepared you for something much greater. Because the same patterns that exist in families also operate within communities, institutions, and entire societies, and very few possess the tools you were forced to develop. There is a profound reason why chosen ones are often born into toxic families, and that reason goes beyond personal growth. The tools you were forced to develop in order to survive and eventually thrive in that environment are not just for your own healing. They are precisely the tools the world needs most. Right now, the process of turning pain into purpose isn't just a beautiful metaphor. It's a form of personal alchemy that few are able to achieve. Those who merely survive toxic environments often end up repeating the same patterns, becoming sources of toxicity themselves. But the chosen ones who consciously process and integrate their experiences develop a unique ability to catalyze healing wherever they go. Their specific wounds, once understood and accepted, become their most powerful tools. If you grew up having your reality constantly denied, you developed a sharp perception of truth that can cut through social manipulation. If you experienced emotional control, you cultivated a deep understanding of authentic freedom. If your sensitivity was ridiculed, you now offer the kind of genuine empathy that so many are desperately seeking. This transformation from pain to purpose doesn't happen automatically. It's a conscious choice. It's the moment when you realize that paradoxically, the experiences that once seemed to be breaking you were actually shaping precise tools for a specific mission. What makes the chosen one so essential in this historical moment is their ability to stay grounded amidst chaos, to discern truth amid distortion, and to maintain authenticity within systems built on appearances. In a world saturated with falsehood, Their hard-earned clarity is a beacon. You've probably noticed that you attract people who are seeking healing, even when you're not consciously trying to help them. There's something in your presence, a kind of authenticity, a capacity to truly see others that naturally creates spaces where transformation can occur. This isn't a coincidence, it's the beginning of your purpose manifesting. For many chosen ones, the next step in the journey involves finding others who not only share similar experiences, but also carry a similar vision for transformation. Like drops of mercury that naturally merge when brought close, chosen ones often recognize each other instantly, a sense of, "I've finally found someone who sees what I see." These connections aren't just comforting, they are powerful catalysts. What one chosen person can achieve alone is impressive. What many chosen ones can manifest through conscious collaboration is revolutionary. There's a reason so many transformative movements throughout history were started by people who endured deep personal suffering and transmuted it into vision and action. The power of supportive communities cannot be underestimated in this process. Having your perception validated after years of psychological manipulation, finding authentic mirrors after a lifetime of distorted reflections, and being truly seen after decades of invisibility creates a foundation from which you can fully step into your mission. As you move deeper into your understanding of purpose, one truth becomes clear. It wasn't in spite of your suffering that you developed your unique gifts. It was through it. The same experiences that seemed to be stealing your life were, in fact, preparing you for a life of extraordinary meaning. A life where your deepest wounds become sources of healing, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes into contact with your light. And when you begin to view your story through this new lens, something extraordinary happens. The past loses its grip on you, and the future opens up with possibilities that once felt unimaginable. True alchemy doesn't happen in medieval laboratories with metals and elements. It happens within the human spirit that transforms toxic experiences into luminous wisdom. This process of transmutation is not just an abstract concept, but a practical path that the chosen can consciously walk. The first step on this path is recognizing that every negative pattern contains within it the seed of a positive gift. The hypersensitivity that once made life difficult in a toxic family is the same sensitivity that allows for deep insight and authentic connection. The hypervigilance that was necessary to navigate unpredictable environments becomes sharp intuition. The need to understand irrational behavior evolves into a sophisticated grasp of human psychology. This transformation doesn't happen on its own. It requires deliberate inner work. It begins with identifying the specific patterns you develop to survive. Maybe you learned to disappear emotionally when conflict arose. Maybe you became extremely perfectionistic to avoid criticism. Or maybe you turned into the eternal peacemaker, sacrificing your own needs just to keep the peace. Once identified, these patterns can be consciously redirected. Perfectionism can transform into excellence with compassion. The tendency to disappear can become the ability to create inner calm amidst chaos. The role of peacemaker can evolve into the gift of authentically mediating conflict without self-sacrifice. The process of forgiveness, often misunderstood, is central to this transmutation. Forgiving doesn't mean excusing toxic behavior or maintaining harmful relationships. It's the internal process of releasing the power the past holds over you. It's recognizing that holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. This forgiveness begins with yourself. Many chosen ones carry deep guilt for not seeing the signs earlier, for allowing certain treatment, for still feeling love toward people who hurt them. This self-forgiveness is not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice of compassion toward the inner child who did the best they could with the tools they had. a powerful exercise to reframe. Your story is creating a new narrative. Take a moment to write your family story, not as a victim of circumstances, but as a hero on a journey of transformation. See each challenge as a test that strengthened specific qualities within you. Notice how each wound opened the door to a unique kind of understanding. As you walk this path of transmutation, you'll begin to glimpse what your life will look like once this process is complete. An inner peace that doesn't depend on external conditions. Relationships rooted in mutual respect and authenticity, not obligation or manipulation. A clarity of purpose that transcends superficial ambitions. And perhaps, most significantly, the ability to be present with suffering, your own and others, without being consumed by it. What you experienced in your toxic family will never fully vanish from your memory, but its meaning will fundamentally shift. What once felt like a prison becomes the portal to a kind of freedom few have ever known. And the very experiences that seem to be destroying your life reveal themselves as the crucible where your true power was forged. The awakening you're experiencing now is not an isolated phenomenon. All over the world, chosen ones are recognizing their greater purpose, transforming the wounds of their toxic families into tools for deep change. This is no coincidence. In times of great planetary transformation, those who were forged through intense challenges are called to lead the way. Your unique ability to navigate dysfunctional environments, discern truth amid manipulation, and uphold integrity under pressure is exactly what our society needs most right now. There is an invisible network connecting all the chosen, not a formal organization, but a resonance of similar frequencies. When you begin to live authentically, you naturally attract others who share this vibration. These connections are not just comforting, they're catalysts for a transformation far greater than any of us could create alone. Your responsibility now is twofold: to continue your own healing and transmutation process while offering your unique light to the world. This doesn't mean you have to become a guru or public figure. Often, the deepest transformations happen through everyday interactions, where your authenticity inspires others to reclaim their own truth. The future you are co-creating is one where authenticity replaces performance, genuine connection replaces manipulation, and awareness replaces denial. A world where being born into a toxic family no longer means decades of confusion and suffering, but where there are clear maps and supportive communities to help guide the way. This is just the beginning of your awakening journey. Leave a comment with the word "chosen" if you felt this message was sent straight to your soul. Share this video with someone you intuitively feel is also a chosen one waiting to awaken. We are in this sacred mission of transformation together.